If I feel weird or uncomfortable doing something, that means that there's something on the other side of it, right? The more that I do what I'm scared of, the less it is a weakness and the more it becomes a strength. So we're going to be talking about life. And right now it's just me, so we're talking with Eli today. And but recently I just realized that I have a testimony, and I never knew the power of sharing a testimony because I was always caught up in my own motion of the emotions. Basically, when I was 4 years old, all the domestic violence that my parents had put themselves through led to the night of December 14th of 2003, when my dad ended up shooting my mom 6 times before like hurting himself, like before offing himself. And I wasn't there. He had like, this is why my dad wasn't a bad person. He just dealt with a lot of demonic spirit warfare. Like, couldn't really tap into the higher power. And that's where I feel like my life has led me to this point, because I was also really lost with not having parents, really struggling with my own self confidence, my own self image, pushing everything away because I had to figure out life on my own. I was raised by my grandparents on both sides. And on those experiences, my other grandma told us what happened when I was 5 years old and my brother was 8 years old, about that, like 8 or 9. So then I ended up getting told all this vivid, gruesome details about the murder, about the how much he's the bad person. So that kind of brainwashed me for a minute, to where like I didn't even want to seek help, or I didn't feel like I could trust my dad's side just because of that manipulation. But I don't blame my grandma. She wasn't a bad grandma. She was also dealing with a lot of like spiritual warfare, and ultimately my whole family's been dealing with this. So that's why I'm doing these things, because like I said, it is difficult. I'm scared right now, bro. I'm nervous as heck right now, but I just don't believe that that feeling is going to benefit me in any way. So I have to do what's difficult and hard. And ultimately after that, my grandparents on my dad's side took custody over us when I was in the fourth grade. So I was probably like 11 or something like that. And it was because we had a bigger family on my dad's side. I had my grandma and grandpa on my dad's side had 14 kids total, and my mom's side, my grandma only had one kid, which was my mom. So that really affected my grandma on my mom's side, and then on my dad's side, there's a bunch of cousins. So the court or whatever, like they made it seem like it'll be better if we spend time with like more family and we have cousins, and you know what I mean. So that's how I ended up in the block when I was raised on like the most active gang infested drug environment probably in the whole town. And I was there from like fourth grade till I was like 20 years old. And in those times when I was living in the neighborhood that was really infested with gangs and drugs and violence, I was becoming a product of my own environment, right? Like I said, I would push away everyone on my dad's side. I didn't really want to believe what they were telling me, and not that I didn't want to believe, but it was like a survival instinct for me to survive that environment. My grandpa on my dad's side, he would like raise his voice at me, but it was a lot of yelling, and yelling really triggers me, like with my trauma because of the domestic. And they didn't really understand that. They just, like, my dad's side told me to get used to it. That's how he is. Just, behave and, like, be what they wanted me to be, without asking me why am I reacting, or why am I running out and running away? Why am I, my old life, right? Why am I picking up the weed at 12 years old? And that was mainly because of my environment. Like I said, I became a product of my environment, just seeing people getting shot in front of me, like being 11 years old, seeing my first lifeless body, and then just really being lost in my own like self, right? Not having that identity, not having that confidence, not having that courage to be myself. And I didn't even get time to have a childhood, and that really threw me in a funk for a fat minute. Like, I was doing my own thing and kind of just hanging out with the homies, and I always never wanted to have a gun because that was what led to my parents like passing. So like to this day, I ain't never shot a gun, never pulled the trigger, but like it's always been around me. And that's what trips me out the most, is I took on that mindset of like, I don't care kind of what happens to me because of what's happened to me already. And this idea of pain, I just felt like it's the only thing that I knew. And like depression was like the only thing, anxiety all that I knew up to that point. I didn't really have feelings of happiness or like genuine, like, you know what I mean? Feeling like I belonged in like a place and I was good enough, right? Felt like I always had to prove myself. And so I just like started being reckless, like smoking weed, drinking, kind of stopped drinking because we were drinking like 40-ounce Mickeys and Cobras and Hurricanes. And I was like, bro, I'm just going to smoke weed. I just want to chill, bro. Like, I just want to chill. So I'm just trying to get away from all the pain at home, you know what I mean? And I feel like everyone around me that is in that environment, or I mean, was in that environment, we all could relate to one thing. We all have like a brokenness, either our home, our family, parent, loved one that's missing, like all of that we all could relate to. So that's where we all were like we got each other's back kind of thing. Being in that environment for a long time, not thinking I would ever make it out, you kind of accept your situation. Why? Because you don't see any other way. Up to this point in life, all I knew was this way of living, this way of thinking, this way of walking and moving. And, that really put a hold on my like potential. I mean, not potential, but put a hold on my growth. Like I grew, but in different ways. I grew like intellectually. I grew like spiritually, kind of. Nah, not spiritually. I didn't even know God. All that through all those times, I did not even know God, or I was really lost. I've seen so much death around me that where I have to figure out my voice. I have to give back. I have to tell people how I feel. I have to do all these things because I've always seen this consistent thing of running out of time with loved ones and not having enough time to share how I really feel or give them their flowers or give them the credit for what they did in my own life, right? And ultimately, after that, I was living in Long Beach for about a year. Once I moved away to get away from all my pain, just running away, trying to escape. Feeling like I'm doing my best to change. I'm over here like getting. I got a job. I started going out with my cousins. I started being there for people. I started just really trying to. I was really doing my best, but in that moment, I realized that all I was doing was just running away still. And I didn't know that I was running away. I felt like I was doing the right thing, leaving things behind that I didn't know how to do on my own. And I ended up getting more depressed than I ever had. No money, so I was just working to smoke weed. I would come home, tried my best to fit in, not felt like I fit in, and just kind of like losing again my own self identity of what I thought I was supposed to be doing or where I'm at and just everything that's going on in my life, okay? After all that, it didn't work out. It was I was in Long Beach for about less than a year and that didn't work out. I ended up getting really sick. I don't know if it was because of the trauma, the emotions that I was just holding in, not really feeling like I could voice. I never had a voice. I've never had a voice. This is like scary to me because this is my first time trying to give myself a voice and I'm really proud of myself. But when I was in Long Beach, yeah, I didn't really have that voice of like, who do I talk to? How much do I say? I really need to talk to somebody, but we're all going through something, and I don't blame them because we've all been through something, and that's what I'm saying. Like, I always try to open up to show people around me how to open up, that it's okay to be vulnerable. It's okay to talk about your feelings. Like, this life is far less important what we are now because we can change tomorrow. And ultimately, I just want to give that message to the world and just people that are going through anything that is like hurting their heart or holding them back because we're literally on a spinning rock in the middle of space and there's so many galaxies out there and God put us to have breath today. Out of every single one of the thousands of millions of stars in the universe, there's only one that has life and there's only one person that is you. There's only one version of you that's you. No one can take that from you because God created you with the gifts and the spiritual talent that you have. You just got to find it. And for me, I tried everything. When I was living in Long Beach, I did therapy, I did writing, I did journaling, I did working out. I would go to the beach, I would do yoga, I would meditate, I would read books and draw. And ultimately, what I found that I was naturally really good at was writing and being creative with my writing. And I read books to help me expand my knowledge of my own willpower and my leadership ability and capability. So I was just expanding myself. So that would be the biggest tip I would give anyone is just like find what you're good at, you gotta try a bunch of everything and fail at about 99% of the things that I am like fail at 99% of the things that you're trying because you're gonna find that one thing that you're good at and that's what God gave you. So ended up after all that I was doing my best. I was in Long Beach for a year, doing my best to just keep running away from my feelings because I didn't have a healthy outlet. And then I checked myself into therapy because it got really bad. My mind got like that was probably like my for my mental health. I would say that would be my rock bottom for my mental health. I had to go into therapy because everything that I was doing on my own self wasn't working out. Like the way I tried to do it never worked out. After all that, I ended up getting really sick in the hospital and my veins had collapsed because I wasn't eating or drinking for several days. And then I was spitting out blood, and then I had blood coming like out of I had blood in my eye because of how bad I was coughing. I popped a blood vessel, and like again, I was spitting out blood. My veins had completely collapsed. I had no strength. I had no willpower to keep on living. I was just kind of suffering until my life was over because I was just suffering my whole life. So again, this concept of pain of suffering I could handle. I have such a high pain tolerance, but that's also comes from being so hard on myself for all the things that I didn't do with my own life and what I how I lived. I've always lived for other people, never for myself. So that was really hard to go through. Like that season of being in the hospital after just giving everything I did, giving everything that I could give and ending up in the hospital and being so sick that almost had cardiac arrest. The doctor literally told me if I didn't go in that day, I would have slipped into cardiac arrest and not have made it to be today where I am. So I'm really grateful for that experience. It opened up my eyes, and when I went back to my cousin's house, I was told that it was too much for her, so I had to move out. And I said, you know, it's okay. Like I really appreciate your time and your effort to give me a place, give me a shot, because I felt like that's what I needed at that time and during that season. Ended up moving back home. When I moved back home, my grandma got emergency heart surgery literally the week that I moved back. So I'm over here sick, and as I was driving back to Merced when I was leaving Long Beach, I was just driving and thinking about all my life and how sick I was and everything that I'm just having to go back to. And this whole mindset is just starting to like get to me again. I'm slipping right back to the environment that I tried so hard to get out of. Once I was there, I went to go say hi to my grandparents, and I gave my grandma a hug. And then when I went to give my grandpa a hug, my body just completely like fell and gave out in his arms. And he like held me up and caught me from like falling down. And then I could just see him look at me, and he was crying because he could hear my voice and he could see the blood in my eye and he could see how sick that I was. And that really, I think, opened up his mind of like, I just feel like honestly how what I feel like is when all the yelling and all the stuff that he like, you know, what I endured in that home, I feel like it kind of like opened his eyes and realized, oh dang, like you know what I mean? Like all that led to this moment right in front of me, you know? Like all that we've been through, the ups and the downs, it led to this moment of him just not looking too good, right? So I ended up moving back to my grandparents' house after a few months living in a garage in Merced. And when I was there, it just didn't like I felt like I was doing the right thing, helping out with the house, doing all these things, and things just didn't end up working out because of some family drama situation. So I ended up starting to live in my car. So now I'm homeless. I'm living in the Bay. I'm living in all over California, and this is the season where I just traveled all across the whole state of California along the coastline because I love the water. Something about the ocean just like it just opens up my mind and expands me and just makes me so happy and full of life and wonder and imagination and thinking about the possibilities of being alive and like continuing on with my life because ultimately when I was in my car it was just like a final tour. Again, I'm over here doing my best but I'm just running away. I'm smoking weed and I'm thinking this is the last trip I'm ever going to do with my life, so might as well make a trip out of it and actually live like life. So I would go hiking in the middle of the mountains by myself, no internet, just hiking through the mountains, and I had my dog with me, so like I wasn't really nervous about anything. And I went back to the old days of like asking people like for directions, going through the mountains, like if they knew which way it led to the lake that I was looking for. And I traveled from San Francisco, no, from Santa Cruz all the way to San Diego, going along the whole coastline. So I was in like Pismo Beach, I was in Big Sur, I was in Monterey, I was in San Luis Obispo, I was in the Danish village called Slovang, I was in Santa Barbara. I was in like Newport Beach. Ended up in San Diego, like Carlsbad. I was like just traveling through all those places. That whole experience opened up my mind of just like, look at how much life you have to live, bro. Look at how much you haven't even done yet with your life. It made me think like, man, like to think of giving up when you haven't even seen this. Imagine how much more beauty is out there in the world. And that lit up a fire to just say, okay, I watched a lot of videos. I learned how to live in a car. I built a bed in my car with my nephews in Long Beach. And so I ended up just starting to live and working and doing Amazon, doing DoorDash, just really traveling. After living in my car for about a year, I moved back to live with my grandparents because my grandpa got sick with cancer. So I started to take care of him. I started to just be there, cook him food, like try to be healthy, try to give them just, like make it less stressful on my grandma. And I was ultimately the person that lived there, so I would always like do my best to water the plants, cut the grass, do all the duties that he used to do on my own. After about a month, he was like, dang, bro, am I really gonna get into this? I was living in my car for about a year. I went from Northern California to Southern California, back up to Northern California because I had ultimately just got tired of SoCal. So I went all the way back up north, and I really wanted to live in the Bay because I just felt like I had more of an emotional connection to the Bay. So I ended up sleeping in my car, working at Amazon at a warehouse. And I was there for like about 6 months. In between my job of working at Amazon, I had my brother who lived in Santa Cruz. So I would be from San Jose to Santa Cruz. I would drive there like it's like 45 minutes, so it's not a bad drive. And I would do that drive every weekend that I had off because I had my dog over there. And one day I was sleeping in my car in Santa Cruz. It was like my weekend that I had. I had time off, and it was in that weekend that I was sleeping in my car that my cousin I said, "Hey, do you know Grandpa has cancer?" And that was it. And like I was like so caught off guard. Like I was focusing on myself. I had saved up about 7,000, living in a car, just working full time. I was doing well for myself. I was finally like, well, not doing well because mentally I was like, again, just not dealing with these things, right? Just kind of keeping myself busy, being busy, and not allowing myself to feel all that I had gone through. And after I received that text, my cousin just told me like so nonchalant, "Oh yeah, like he has cancer, like it's all over his body." And no one told me. So like I was feeling really hurt just from like no one telling me what really happened. Yeah, and then I ended up moving back home. I would take care of my grandparents. I would drive to from Merced to San Jose is about 2 hours, about an hour and a half without traffic. So I would drive an hour and a half to work. I would work, stay there for my couple days of shifts, which was about 4 days, and then I would drive home on the last day, right back to Merced after working 10 hours. Drive home, get to their crib, clean up the house, do laundry, water the plants, water the grass, cut the yard, make food, do like all the wash the dishes. And I would do all these things until I saw my grandpa get really sick. And I don't know, I feel like so bad talking about this. Like, not like I don't feel good talking about this right now. It's so weird. I feel like something is telling me to stop talking about this, but I don't know who it is. Honestly, I don't know what to say right now.